In your recent sermon about predestination, you stated that most members of the body of Christ are never born. What does that mean and where is it in the Bible? I don't think that's quite what I said. What is true, in my opinion, is that of those who are in the body of Christ, in other words, everyone who is saved during the dispensation of grace, the vast majority of those never reach the age of accountability. So let's look at a couple things together. The first is, let's start with, we'll look here, this is from the World Health Organization. This shows the top 10 causes of death. It's from December 2020. And if I scroll down here, you see that heart disease is the first leading cause. It's about 9 million a year. If you look at stroke, it's second. It's about 7 million. Chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, you can see as almost 3.5 maybe, and so on. Those are the top 10 causes of death. The thing to notice, so if we take heart disease, that's 9. If we take stroke, let's call that 7, so that's 16. If we take pulmonary disease, that's another 3. So you get to about 20 million for the top 3 causes. Now, I want you to compare that with this. This is also from the World Health Organization, and it's their article on abortion. And we'll just go down here. Around 73 million induced abortions take place worldwide each year. 73 million. So let's go back to the other chart just for a minute. So if you add up all of these, top 10 causes, you get to a number that is less than 73 million. So what does that tell you? Well, abortion is by far the leading cause of death on earth today. So when you think about that, let's add a couple other things to that. Abortion is by far the leading cause of death. You also have to add into that miscarriages. Miscarriages happen as well, where it's not, an intentional termination. It is something that is not that. Then if you add to that, for example, infant mortality. If you think about infant mortality throughout history, did much of the population die as children? And the answer to that is yes. And then you would add to that all other deaths prior to the age of accountability. And you can determine when you think that is. I've taught on that previously, and my personal belief, when you study the Old Testament, you learn that the age of accountability is 20. So let's pull this all together then. So if you add up abortion, miscarriages, infant mortality, and all other deaths before the age of accountability, what does that tell you about the vast majority of the body of Christ? Well, the vast majority of the body of Christ is composed of people who die before the age of accountability. It's just simply the way that it works. So you feel free to do your own research on that, validate the numbers. But what that means, and frankly, it's just pause and reflect on this for a minute. That is a commentary on the graciousness of God. One of the questions that you'll sometimes get from folks is, well, God created humanity, humanity fell, and as a consequence of the fall, people will go to hell. And by the way, look at the population, the vast majority of people are not saved. So what a horrible job God did designing the universe, because he creates mankind, mankind falls, and the vast majority of the people he created end up in the lake of fire. Well, that logic is wrong, because what happens is the vast majority of humanity ends up in a right relationship with God. They end up in the new heavens or the new earth, because the vast majority of humanity throughout history dies before reaching the age of accountability. So that's just something to keep in mind.